Hey everybody, this is Jim at SP500chart.com. It is about 4:30 on July 24th, 2013, and we're going to take a look at the chart after I read this. And that is www.sp500chart.com, and this video are for educational purposes only. Nothing stated at the site or in the video is intended to be used as investment advice. I can draw lines on charts, but you have to draw your own conclusions from your own research and make investment decisions that are suitable for your personal financial situation. I'm not a licensed financial professional. I'm just a guy who draws lines on charts. So let's take a look. Okay, we're looking at a 15-minute chart. Yesterday, we started the process of what was looking like a potential break of this rising support line. And today, that process was fairly quickly resumed, even though initially it looked like there was an attempt at getting back into this channel, but it just fell short. And you know, this really doesn't surprise that much because of the psychological barrier that I think is up here at roughly this 1700 level, actually a little lower. And you might say, well, why would it be a little lower than that? Well, because people aren't, they don't want to be greedy. So I think the reason is people were thinking, well, you know, give me 1698. Who needs the extra 2? So I believe they were just people looking for an exit up here. So this breaks now all of our ascending channels. And what I mean by that was we had a fairly large one that was between these two teal lines. Of course, this one broke a while back, this one between the two red lines. And since it did, if you don't mind, I'm going to clean that up, get rid of it. Then we had this blue channel right here that was slightly wedge-shaped. I think I'm going to leave those, because that could come into play at some point down the road if we back test this bottom line. And let's go ahead and get rid of these little guys here that were on the chart for a while. So, taking a little bit closer look at it, let's get rid of that and that and that. I think we're good now with the lines on this chart. You can see that clearly the turquoise channel broke. That was initiated originally by the breaking of this 5-day long support line that was kind of internal to that. And you can see that this morning we made a go up above this channel line, but it really sort of back tested this blue line. Also made another attempt to get, you know, into that close to 1700 range, but sold off fairly well, not in a real tumultuous sell-off by any stretch, but it quickly turned tail. Let's just put it that way. So the question now is, where is this going to head? Well, I'll remind you that channels break for one of two reasons. It is either to set up a reversal or to set up some sideways action that ends up being a consolidation. And when you look at the chart that we've been seeing for the past couple of years, each time we've had a break of a channel, we've almost always had some kind of move sideways or down that created a consolidation or a more legitimate downward trend than a resumption. And I don't think with this chart in mind we should necessarily be looking for anything different. So we got a couple areas to where I think if we continue the sell-off, and I think we're going to sell off more than what we saw today, but it wasn't a real tumultuous thing. It was just kind of like, well, we can't do it, so let's just back off. I think that in the long run, we're going to get over 1700. But where are we on the chart right now? Well, I've drawn this little line here. I'm thinking this might be a little head and shoulders pattern. And if it is, it has a target that is just so minuscule that it's hardly even worth mentioning. Basically, if this is a little head and shoulders here, excluding this little candle we saw at the beginning of trading today, then we're looking at a target of about 1680. And here we are at 1686. That's just no big deal. But if we do sell off a bit more, I think we have a good chance at bouncing on this green line. And I think we have, if that line holds, if that line fails to hold, then I think we have a very good expectation of a bounce in the low 1650s. So that's just kind of the way it looks right now. I've added this little horizontal line right here at roughly 1698. I'm thinking we may come back and revisit that line, and if we do, we may have some kind of pattern underneath us that gives us an indication about where the market might want to head next. That's very preliminary, but obviously I think that has been resistance. We saw it on 2 consecutive days, and I think that's worth noting and extending off to the right a bit as we go into the rest of this week and next week as well. So again, not really a tumultuous day of selling, but a day where there were more sellers than buyers. So let's see what happens as we continue throughout this week. See if we get a bounce here on this green line, in which I'll remind you has its genesis in 1, 2, 3 tops that took place back in June. So it'll be interesting to see if this has much influence at this point in time. If that breaks, then I would be looking for support, very likely in the low to mid 1650s. And again, as I mentioned yesterday, if this were to break, then we look to this orange line right here. So we got a number of areas where we would expect some support, and it's my hope that as we approach one of these, we begin to get some secondary information that starts to give us a clue, like we got down here when we made this little inverted head and shoulders. So there's your video for July 24th, 2013. Thanks for watching, and thanks for your support.